And the big breaking news here on India Today, the news that everybody's been waiting for. Lockdown extended till 31st May across the country. So that's the big breaking news coming in. More guidelines also have been issued. Remember, there are some states already like Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu that have already announced an extension till 31st May. But it seems that now more guidelines have come, and an order that was expected from the Ministry of Home Affairs, that perhaps will be the likely announcement that everybody's been waiting for. But there are sources already confirming to India Today that that lockdown has been extended, but this does not mean that it will be the same restrictions. There could be partial relaxations with restrictions that will be given. Some of those restrictions and guidelines there on your screens as well. Even now, gatherings, whether in hotels, restaurants, cinema halls, malls and gymnasiums, will not be permitted when the lockdown gets extended, at least till 31st May. So the big news here on India Today, lockdown 4.0 will continue till 31st May. Even the air travel, except for emergency purposes, will continue to remain suspended, including the public transport, at least in the national capital, Delhi. Schools and colleges will also continue to remain shut. So life, while returning to normalcy in some areas, will continue to face lockdown 4.0 with renewed restrictions as well. We'll continue to keep you updated with all the updates that are coming in from Ministry of Home Affairs order. All right, so the order of Ministry of Home Affairs that has now come says lockdown shall continue to remain in force up to 31st May 2020, and the activities that continue to remain prohibited till now will include the air services, including domestic and international air travel, also the metro rail services. Schools, college, educational training, coaching institutions will remain closed. Online distance learning shall continue to be permitted, and online classes are even being encouraged in lockdown 4.0. Kamaljeet Sandhu bringing us all the latest. Kamaljeet, so finally the Ministry of Home Affairs order is out. What are the guidelines that you're picking up? What is prohibited? What will be relaxed this time around?
This order has now been issued by Ministry of Home Affairs. It's an exhaustive guideline. Now we know till 31st May 2020, which is for 15 days, it's been extended. What it also means is that all domestic and international air travel will not be allowed except for medical ambulance purposes, metro rail services. So in that sense, school, colleges, educational, anything which can have a congregation. The government has also said online distance learning education should be promoted and encouraged. The hotels, restaurants, hospitality services, these all, especially as far as housing, health, police, government officials are concerned, these are some of them which need quarantine facilities. They need running canteens, so that needs to be looked into, especially at bus depots, railway station and airports. Again, cinema halls, shopping malls, gymnasiums, swimming pools, entertainment parks, these will not be allowed. Sporting complexes, stadiums, again, all closed. So mostly taking in from the previous guidelines of 1, 2, 3, 4, which we understand is that whatever allows for mass congregation is not allowed, Pooja.
Okay.
The other part is about any sort of social, political, sports gathering, academic, cultural, religious. So this will not be allowed. Again, interstate movement of passenger buses and vehicles with mutual consent, as in previous arrangements being made between the center and state, that has been allowed. So this is obviously a 9-page directive. Again, as far as containment, buffer, red, green and orange zones, the delineation, we've been told, of all these zones will be decided by respective states. This is something that we had broken earlier, Pooja, that the states will have a greater say. More onus and responsibility shifts from the center more onto the states. As far as defining the hotspots are also concerned.
Also, Kamalji, just adding here for the benefit of our viewers, the 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. restriction to continue, which is called the night curfew, that after 7 p.m. there will be strict restrictions. There will be section 144. So these are some of the restrictions that continue, which only means, Kamal, that they're not taking any chances with mass gatherings like you're telling us. So schools, educational institutions, religious, political, social gatherings still not allowed till 31st May. Would that be correct to say?
Well, absolutely. If you read the NDMA document, which was released a short while ago, it clearly points out to one thing. That is that this resumption of economic activities is important, and that is why the directive is to ensure that people do not lose livelihoods. And that is what MHA has now maintained. So again, more activities being done at this point of time in all zones, barring the containment zone.
All right, and also the intrastate movement of passenger vehicles, buses, as will be decided by the state and UTs. So it seems also, Kamaljeet, that the union government is giving a lot of responsibilities also to state governments, also perhaps to the local authorities to decide as they deem fit, as per containment zones and as per risks they see around them. Kamaljeet, can you hear me? All right, we'll just go back to Kamaljeet in a short while. So big breaking news here on India Today. First breaking here only on this channel, bringing you all credible updates. This is now a confirmed news. The Ministry of Home Affairs order has been issued, and that it has clearly stated that the lockdown shall continue to remain in force up to 31st May 2020. And the activities that will continue to remain prohibited are those mass gatherings. Kamaljeet Sandhu is still back with us. Kamaljeet, from what I can gather also from the order is that a lot of specifications have been given to, it seems, to the state governments as well and to the authorities. This is just to perhaps ensure that they can deem best fit according to the containment zones in their areas, because it seems the intra-state movement is now the responsibility of the state government.
Well, yes. I think what is important takeaway is that many of the previous guidelines have been carried forward. However, the biggest difference is that states have been given a larger responsibility, especially when it comes to deciding the red, orange and green zones. This is where they wanted a say in what a hotspot is, that if they wanted to identify a particular building, they could do so instead of having the entire society done. So this is something which is going to be pertinent. But again, when we're talking about mass activities, larger activities, that is something, even the mass transport, because that was one of the consideration, that is something that MHA is taken care of. That flights are not going to be flying. This is also keeping in mind that there will be special arrangement done, especially for those people who are sick or extremely needy, who need to travel urgently. That the government will arrange. But clearly, when it comes to general way of life, there is going to be no movement allowed from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So carrying forward that particular guideline, again, any sort of mass congregation, so no schools, no colleges, online education being encouraged. Then we are talking about sporting activities or congregational activities like religious activities. All that is not going to be allowed. So very clearly at this point of time, the 9-page guideline itself puts more onus on the states to ensure that the spread of COVID-19 does not take place. The larger guidelines are mostly taken away from the previous guidelines of lockdown 2 and 3. But we have seen many amendments being made. So it's a learning in progress as far as states and center are concerned. For instance, whether it is the interstate or intrastate travel, that is something which the center has taken care of. The sort of needling which is required, the sort of coordination which is required, because if students, say, have to move from one state to the other, it's almost been a 2-month lockdown. It's a very exhaustive one. The other part is about the migrants who've been walking. This is something that the center has also talked. An interesting part about it is that not everybody in India, 130 crore Indian we are all, but we don't have a smartphone. So phone now has become very important, because MHA guideline also says it's important and imperative to have a Setu app at this point of time. So again, Arogya Setu app being central to what the government wants to do. And in the next few days or months, perhaps, the word around is what the Prime Minister had talked
Interrupting you there
about,
for a short
new
while.
form.
With a view to
This is
ensure
something
safety
that
in
has to be
offices and
adopted.
workplaces, employers on best effort basis should ensure that Arogya Setu is installed by all employees having compatible mobile phones. We're looking at how state and UTs, based on their assessment of the situation, can take actions as they deem necessary.